But first I want to show what made me busy in the last time. I had spent almost all of my free time for some prototyping. This one here is just made for myself. I saw this type of knife at my friend's website and I wanted to have one for myself. The steel that I used is 01 tool steel with a hardness of 61 Rockwell, with black linen micarta handle and a simple leather sheath. The tip of this knife is extremely pointy. And this prototype here, this is basically the next generation of my MSL Bushcrafter. The steel that I used for this one is SB1 stainless steel with a Rockwell hardness of 61. The handle material is G10, green G10 with red G10 liners. The tip of this knife is less pointy than the previous version of my Bushcrafter. Pretty comfortable to use. I think the size of handle and blade is very convenient to use. It fits extremely good in my hand, in any grip. A very smooth handle. With a sheath with double clip buttons here. The rest is just prototype quality. Not that good. Not ready for sale. But I'm quite happy with the performance of this knife. The other prototypes here are a lot of ideas that I had for chopping. This one here is basically a Golok style mini machete, or I'm not even sure if you can call it Golok or like a medieval sax or whatever, but it is flat on one side, completely flat, and on this side it got a grind, so it is basically a right-handed mini Golok. I think the Japanese are using something like that style until today. 01 tool steel, 58 Rockwell hardness with off-ram wood. Got a very nice pattern. And the basic idea of this one is I wanted to have something that is smaller and less pointy for urban environment, for basically hobby bushcrafter. I mean, just think about it. If you go into the jungle or something, I prefer something like this in terms of survival, or however you want to call it. But obviously that looks a little bit aggressive, you know, if you go just in a forest and you meet some people there and you have a big knife that is very pointy like this one. People are maybe not so comfortable with it. And if you look at this, a lot smaller, no pointy tip, that's a lot less aggressive, I believe. So yeah, it's more for the hobby bushcrafter. And I had also an idea that I integrated into this knife. I wanted to expose the back, the spine of the blade on the first part of the handle. So let's say you want to baton something, some lock that is wide as that. You have enough space here at the tip to hit the blade with a wood, with a piece of wood, but you don't have any space here at the handle. So by exposing the spine of the handle, I have some surface area to hit it, but I will not break off the handle material, the handle scales right away. And I exposed only a little bit of it, so if you hold it in your hand, you actually don't feel much of it. I believe you will not get any blisters from this, but I still have to test it. Also meant for chopping is this one here. Basically a long, slim and very lightweight Golok version. More or less the same version as this, but stretched and much thinner material. The steel that I used for this blade is SB1 stainless steel with a Rockwell hardness of 60. And this stainless steel should actually be able to handle the shock of chopping even with a Rockwell hardness of 60. What is not so common, there are not too many steels that have those properties. So the steel is a test, it's the first time that I work with the steel, as well as the design. This blade is on both sides the same, so no right-handed or left-handed version. And then I have made a shorter version of this, no finger choil, and the steel is a lot thicker, so that you have some weight in that blade, so that it is able to chop, that it is possible to chop with it. And the steel in this blade is the same as before, SB1 steel, stainless steel, with a Rockwell hardness of 60. But the grind is almost a zero saber grind, almost. And then I have this bad boy here. 01 tool steel, hardness of 58 Rockwell. Totally purpose designed. This design is not meant to look nice, this design is just functional. It got a flat grind on both sides. A big finger choil, so you can choke up on it. And the blade is basically Golok style blade. Now I'm planning to do something special, some special experiment with this one. I have always asked myself about this for a longer time already. What will happen if you use a flat grind like this, and the edge will be only made from one side, the edge will be only made from the right side, and the flat grind will be left flat on the left side. That means the edge will not be so much off center anymore, but it's still a right-handed version and it should bite deep into the wood from the right side. But maybe it is also possible to chop well and bite deep into the wood from the left side, because the edge is not so much off center anymore. By the way, the black color of this blade is only from the hardening. I just stabilized it with some varnish, so that the blade will not start rusting. Anyways, let's put an edge on this blade. It's going to be a one-sided edge, only on the right side, so it's a right-handed machete. The super lightweight one, long and lightweight. It cuts through pretty straight. That's quite okay. That's relatively satisfying. You can feel that it doesn't have a lot of weight, so it's not going to be a super hard chopper. Now I want to check on all of those blades how they travel through the wood. I have to take off the camera for this. You can see already right away the difference. This one here is a little bit convexed on the edge, and that causes the blade to curve in the wood. When it travels through the wood, it curves a little bit. While this one here is like a zero saber grind, it travels pretty straight through the wood. Now let's check out how this one behaves. Yeah, you can see that this edge got slightly the tendency to curve inwards. And this is exactly why I like this blade. But it will chop very badly from the left side. The left side is the one with the grind. Yeah, typical. It curves outwards so badly that it doesn't really penetrate the wood, unless you use a very steep angle. This chop was probably with an angle done like this. The blade came back out. Now let's get to the most interesting part. This is the flat grind. Both sides flat grind, but only on the right side an edge. The left side of the flat grind is flat. Let's see how it behaves. Well, looks to me pretty much the same like the other right-handed Golok. It came again out on the left side, and on the right side it traveled slightly curved inwards, slightly. But almost straight. About the chopping power, those two feel almost the same. They are probably around the same depths, about the same deep into the wood. Let's talk for a second about knives in general. I noticed that many people are always arguing about knives. And of course, knives, that is a difficult subject and there are many different opinions on it. And of course it depends on what you want to do with it. It depends a lot on what you want to do with it. I mean, this one here is probably totally unpractical for the military. What do they want to do with it, you know? And what kind of survival are you talking about? Are you talking about military combat survival? Are you talking about a 72-hour survival scenario? Or are you talking about natives that permanently live in a remote area and you have a long-term survival situation? So totally different. Most of my knives are focused and designed on long-term survival. So I want them to be lightweight because you don't want to carry heavy things around all the time, and you are always working with wood, and you have to do also precise things with the wood, fine carvings and so on. You're not just going to split a log for fire so that you don't die on hypothermia. And I noticed that some people have a poor understanding of those tasks, and also many knife companies, they offer knives with a horrible edge angle. I mean, the edge angle is so horrible you cannot really use it for carving, but of course it's perfectly for batoning. It will not dull at all if you hammer it through a log. Now you can argue a little bit what was first, the egg or the chicken. I don't know. Just yesterday I came across a video on YouTube that was called Your Survival Knife Sucks, and on the channel Rational Prepper. And this guy, he says basically that expensive knives suck, you don't need them, you can use also the cheap ones, like 30 to 50 bucks Schrade knives and so on. And he claims that if you have a lot of skills, you don't need expensive knives. You can do it also with those cheap $35 knives. And I don't understand that. I mean, that's total bullshit. Also, somebody who is skilled, he probably wants to spend more money on his tools because he uses them, he needs them. And I can tell you that there is a huge difference in the different types of steel. I bought myself here a Schrade Mini Bolo, I believe is it. I wanted to see how's the quality and things of that nature. And if you look at it, the design is actually not too bad. That's why I have been choosing it. It got a forward weight, good for chopping, but it is lightweight, exactly what I wanted. But the quality is really low. I mean, the handle is like a rubbery material here, and if you touch the handle, actually it's like your hands become sticky. And here the edge angle here is horrible. I mean, really horrible, like a 90-degree angle actually. and it starts just here, pretty far away from the handle. This is something that I don't like. And it's not the same on both sides. And the straight diamond sharpener here is bent. No idea if a bent sharpener has any purpose, but I don't have any need of it. So in general, those knives, they are really low quality. Is it worth it? Yeah, well, you just pay like 35 bucks or something, so it's kind of worth it. But in general, I personally prefer something with more quality. That's a difficult thing, because I know that handmade knives, custom knives, they are quite expensive. So what can you do about it? Well, I mean, instead of buying a dozen of those cheap knives, you are probably better off if you search for used high-end, high-quality knives. Let's say you are going to buy a Fallkniven, and a used Fallkniven, maybe on eBay or wherever. Sometimes you have those knife magazines with some pages of used knives for sale. And if you buy a used Fallkniven, for example, you can sell it for about the same price if you don't break it. So why do you want to spend a lot of money on different cheap ones if you could have also one expensive one? Another idea is, for example, if you want your own custom-made one. That can be quite expensive, but you could also get a blade from a knife maker, just the blade itself, from your design. Make your own handle on it. That's relatively easy to make a handle. And then you search for somebody who is making custom leather sheaths or kydex sheaths. Those ones are sometimes not that expensive. You can get one for maybe 50 to 60 bucks. And at the end you spend maybe like $250 and you have your own custom-made high-end steel knife. And I can tell you there's a big difference in the different types of steel. This knife here with SB1 stainless steel, 61 Rockwell hardness. When I put that one on one of my belts, let's say 240 grit, it will dull the belt immediately. It's really hard and annoying to work with the steel. And that makes those knives with high-end steel so expensive. Abrasives are quite expensive and you have to spend a lot of money on abrasives just to make those knives. And a cheap steel is even easy to work with it, even easy to grind it when it's hardened already. So there's really a huge difference between the different types of steel. If you don't want to spend that much money, I clearly recommend high carbon steel. High carbon steel is a great steel, let's say 1095 01 tool steel. They are great for cutting, they make super sharp edges, they are cheap, it's easy to work with them, they're just only rusting. If you want to go for stainless steel, it gets a little bit tricky because stainless steels are just much more expensive, and especially if you want to have a high-end stainless steel, then you are going to pay a lot already for only the material. And it is hard to work with it. You spend, or the knife maker spends a lot on the abrasives. The hardening is tricky. You probably need a cryo treatment to minus 80 degrees Celsius and so on. So if you're on the budget, go for a high carbon steel. And if you are looking into some custom made, maybe you want to make your own handle. That can save a lot of money. I have now tested most of my knives and I have some problems with this one. This one got more or less the same chopping power as this one, but they are totally different in length. The reason for this is because this edge is a lot finer and cuts much better than this one. but I have some chips in this edge. So they are both the same steel, both the same hardness. Now I know that this edge is too fine for chopping. I need a more steeper edge angle, a more solid edge like this one has. But in general the designs performed quite well, and I kind of like it, because especially this one is nice to use in an urban environment. Well, not urban environment, but let's say you go into the forest on a Saturday and you don't want to carry anything large with you, but you still want to be able to chop. And this one here is super lightweight, also relatively slim, and doesn't look very aggressive. This one here performed as expected. Totally bushcrafting. I don't consider that survival. I saw that one with the natives in the Philippines. They are always crafting something, making some fish traps or making some bow and arrow and so on. And this type of grind is very good in this. You can chop very straight and plain things. But as I said, this is totally bushcraft if you ask me. To my surprise, this one here basically performed in the same way as this. It even chopped in the same way as this. Only sometimes it is nicer to have a little bit weight in your hand if you want to make something really precise, and you do that with very low speeds. But this one here, even it's quite small, it's really effective, and I'm impressed with it. It's at the moment my favorite, basically. So this exposed area here on the handle, this actually didn't give me any blisters. I actually didn't even feel it or realized it, that it is exposed. I didn't do any batoning, but obviously it will save your handle as long as you don't hit it in a strange angle. So I'm pretty pleased with this. I guess I will do that on other knives as well, to expose the tang.